Has the art world been kind to Charlie Lucas?
No. I've been treated like a dog in it.
All the pieces that you've sold, though.
I wasn't paid fairly for them. And some of them I didn't get paid at all for them.
The first person to recognize the power in Charlie's work was an Alabama Supreme Court justice named Mark Kennedy, who had a business on the side dealing in art. He talked the Tin Man into signing an exclusive contract, giving the judge the right to sell Charlie's work.
We were the agent for Charlie Lucas for a while, yes.
A 4-year contract.
Right.
Charlie had placed his full faith in the white establishment, in a judge no less, but he could not get the distinguished jurist to tell him what happened to the art that was taken away or how much it sold for. Judge is a powerful man in these parts.
Oh, yes, he's a powerful man, and he's a wonderful man, too. But that ain't got nothing to do with showing me the books, though. I mean, I feel honored to know these people, but I don't feel right that my work was taken away from me the way it was.
Do you know how much they got for some of those pieces?
No. Never knowed anything.
Do you have any idea?
That's been kept away from me.
Most of the work ended up in the hands of a few collectors who paid anywhere from a few $100,000 to $10,000 per piece. The judge denies Charlie's accusations, says he kept him well informed and showed him the books. But he says he couldn't keep track of all the art.
There were so many people coming to Charlie Lucas's house and taking art from him that we never knew about, that I agree with you. There was a lot of art out there that got away from Charlie that he probably never did get an accounting for. I've learned an important lesson about what happens when artists are discovered and they become commercialized. And it's not a very pretty picture.
Judge Kennedy helped paint that picture. There was his relationship with another artist, Mose Tolliver, Mose T. He signed a contract with the artist which gives the judge full rights to reproduce his work on T-shirts and gives the artist a, quote, consideration. Mose T cannot read, and he insists he never signed it. Did you have a contract with Mose Tolliver?
No.
Of any kind?
A written contract with Mose Tolliver? No.
Well, there's this agreement about reproducing Mose's work on T-shirts that you...
We'd never had a contract with Mose as it related to the sale of his art. We were contacted by some individuals who wanted to, out of Birmingham, who wanted to print reproductions of T-shirts on Mose's work.
It says he shall get a consideration. That sounds like exploitation. You don't write out how much money a man's going to get for a consideration. I mean, you're a judge, a lawyer. Isn't that vague? A consideration can be anywhere from $1 a year to
Well, the
$1
interesting
million.
thing about that, Mr. Safer, is number one, there were never any T-shirts produced. Mose Tolliver and I were friends and continue, I think, to this day to be friends.
He also says he never signed this.
Well, Mose did sign it. Now, it may have been when he may have been less than sober, as he was sometimes, but Mose did sign that.
Judge Kennedy, for all his prominence, is a relatively small player. The king of outsider art is an Atlanta dealer named Bill Arnett. He roams the back roads in search of the undiscovered. He's acquired works from the Tin Man's Garden of Iron Delights. The inside of his house is stacked and piled with art. He covets it, hoards it, admits he's a fanatic. The first rule of the art world is there are no rules.
I agree with that. And unfortunately, that gets magnified in this sort of Gothic Deep South setting in which traditionally the culture from which the work comes that we're interested in has been there for the taking. There wasn't a fee. It just simply took a request. I want that. Give it to me. Yes, boss.
Bill Arnett has paid thousands of dollars to artists like Charlie Lucas. He claims to be the first dealer to give the artist a decent break. Bessie Harvey, once a favorite of Arnett's, would disagree.
Well, when he first came to see me, he bought maybe $1,000 worth of work. And
which would have been how many pieces, do you think?
the back of his van would, you know.
Like a lot of artists he worked with, he paid her a monthly stipend of $500 over a 5-month period as an advance payment for an unspecified number of pieces.
He bought a lot of work from me. And but he borrowed some when he was going to have this thing at his house. And he owed me for some he had bought. He didn't pay for what he had bought, and he didn't give me back what he borrowed.
I can't imagine why I would take a few of her pieces and not pay her and risk, you know, being exposed on national television. I don't think I'm that dumb.
But did you borrow some pieces from Bessie?
I bought pieces from Bessie Harvey for more money than anybody ever bought pieces from Bessie Harvey for. I then took a few more pieces, I think 3 pieces, for an exhibition in my house, which Bessie Harvey attended in 1988.
Do you still have them?
I have some Bessie Harvey pieces that are...
The pieces in question?
I have, yeah, you mean have I sold them or disposed of them? No, I have them sitting in a warehouse.
Why not just send her the pieces that you have and it'll be over?
I've got my own way of doing things, and I'm not sure what I really do owe her, if anything.
He kind of got frustrated with me, and he came and he told me he wanted me to take the hex off of him.
The hex?
Yeah, and I said, I don't have a hex on you. I said, you put a hex on yourself because you don't treat people right.
Whatever one may think of Arnett, he did help put outsider art on the map. But Bessie Harvey says he has a need to control the artists, and if he can't, he'll try to minimize their importance. His current favorite is Thornton Dial, for whom he's arranged shows in New York and France. Dial lives in a big, rambling house in rural Alabama. There are those who accuse Arnett of having total control over him.
I don't fool with nobody but Bill Arnett.
You don't let the collectors come in here?
Nope. Nope, nobody but Bill.
Did you ever think that,
Nope.
one of Thornton Dial's paintings would go for $100,000?
Never thought that in my life. Never thought I'd make that kind of money.
How much did you make out of that one?
Well, I get part of it, you know. I'm be satisfied with what I get. So.
You don't want to say how much?
Well, no, I won't just say how much I get.
This success of yours, you now have this house here.
Exactly the truth.
You own that house?
That's true. That's mine.
Thornton Dial may think he owns the house. He doesn't. We're not sure what Arnett told him, but at the county courthouse, records show the sole owner to be Bill Arnett. The house that Thornton Dial lives in.
Right.
He says it's his house. In fact, it's your house, is it not?
The house is in my name. When we bought that house for Dial, the house was essentially his house. I mean, it was bought for him by me. I didn't owe him the house. We then tried to transfer title to him, and the accountant said, but if you do that, he's going to have a huge tax liability, and so some structure is being set up now whereby the house is his or in his name, but not all at one time.
But do you see where when people say Bill Arnett is controlling Thornton Dial, there's no heavier control over a man than the roof he lives under.
In the case of Dial, he gives scarcely a thought to the taunts, and believe me, he gets them that, hey, Whitey has your house, or Whitey's taking control of you. This comes from within his own community as well as from outside.
Long before there was any market for their art, Charlie and Thornton Dial and Bessie Harvey and the others were making art simply because they had to, unsullied by fashion or popularity. Now it seems that purity has been lost.
Purity, yeah, well, that's an inevitability, is it not? I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't leave all this art on the road out there and only a few people get to go see it. You have to bring it to the public.
It's an old conflict, the war between the dealer and the artist. In their lifetimes, Rembrandt and Van Gogh probably heard one version or another of Bill Arnett's spiel. and themselves voiced one version or another of the Tin Man's complaint.
When you see your work again and it's sold for thousands and thousands of dollars and you only got $85 for it, there's something in the system wrong, man. Bad wrong.